Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar with Turnkey Technologies and Cosmos Data Technologies. We're happy you could join us this afternoon. I'm Luke Caldwell. I'm with Turnkey here, and today we are joined with Anthony Bonaduce from Cosmos, and he's going to showcase some of the amazing capabilities that Cosmos has going on for Dynamics 365 Business Central and everything that they have going on to make our lives easier and help you in your day to day. So with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to Anthony.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Luke. I appreciate the introduction. And as Luke said, thank you all for your time and for hopping on. We're glad to be here and take you through Cosmos. So one thing I will mention, it looks like we have folks muted just in case, inevitably you get the hold music or something throughout it. Feel free to type questions into the chat there or into the Q&A section. If there's some time at the end, we'll try and get to those. If not, Luke and team can follow up with you on those. And I know at the end, he'll mention ways to obviously contact or follow up. So today we're going to cover a lot in a very short amount of time. So we're going to kind of dive in here head first and really get rolling, but we'll be looking at Cosmos. And simply put, Cosmos is the first and only fully cloud-based reporting and analytics platform that's born in the cloud and built specifically for Business Central Cloud. So with that, we'll kind of dive in. As far as it goes, I'm just going to spend a minute talking about us just to introduce, obviously, the company if you're not familiar. And then we're going to jump into a quick overview on the different features and functionality that we're going to go through, the different areas of the product. And then I truly am going to spend probably the next 25 minutes in the product. So we're going to really focus on showing you it, letting you see what this thing really does. And to Luke's point, that the value and time savings and everything it provides. So that's what's on the docket. Real quick, Cosmos, I kind of already did the quick overview, right? First and only cloud-based reporting and analytics solution for Business Central Cloud. But, myself and my team, we have literally spent the entirety of our careers doing third-party reporting and analytics for Microsoft ERP users. It's where we drew a lot of inspiration for the platform. And when you think about what people want, they want a solution that's lightning fast, easy to use, from a business user standpoint. They want it to be secure, obviously, and they want everything in the cloud. So that's really what we built the product upon. And you're going to see a lot of that today. But what made us famous is the performance piece. So compared to the other legacy Excel report writing solutions in the Microsoft space, Cosmos on average is about 48 times more performant when used in conjunction with Business Central Cloud. BC is very different from Nav or GP or other legacy Microsoft ERPs. It is cloud, and there's a very different way you need to approach it. And those historical tools that people have used, they're not designed to work with cloud. So we do see a very significant performance increase. If you're using some other product in a third-party capacity and you're running into performance issues, those are going to be resolved here in Cosmos. So product-wise, what I'm going to take you through today is broken up into a few different buckets. We're going to start out in the Cosmos portal. You can think of this kind of like your homepage. When you log in the day, in the morning or throughout the day, this is where you'll land. And you'll go here to run reports, manage users, roles, permissions, create new reports, look at Power BI reports and dashboards, all that good stuff starts and ends here in the portal. So we're going to look at that. Then we'll show you just a quick and dirty kind of example on how to throw a report together using Cosmos. So you can see what that design approach is like. Again, the feedback is it's kind of the easiest, methodology for designing reports that's available. And so that's obviously a good thing. So I'll show you that here in just a moment. We'll talk about where Power BI fits in this whole equation. Power BI is a phenomenal tool. I've used it for 6-7 years now, but it's not the easiest solution to work with standalone. And so there is a really nice integration between Cosmos and Power BI that enables business users to immediately start leveraging Power BI and not have to write code in SQL or DAX or anything like that. Lastly, if we have a couple minutes at the end, I'll just talk to you about kind of what's under the hood, the nice approach we take with the Business Central data to clean it, organize it, make it super easy to work with. And that's all driven through the Cosmos data engine. So for time's sake, I didn't want to spend more than a couple minutes in here. I want to jump into the product. So we're going to switch gears. So on my screen, this is Cosmos. So this is your portal. You're going to log in here. Everything is seamless with Microsoft. So we're literally logging in with our Microsoft credentials, same ones we use for BC or Teams or any other Microsoft applications. It's a little bit funky. I'm the main administrator for my demo environment here, so it just defaults me to this admin page. Most users are going to land right here, and they're going to see any reports they built or that have been shared with them. That's a really key distinction I always like to point out. This is not an organization-wide free-for-all of reports. There are security layers around this. So for example, if we have financial statements and we only want those to sit with the finance team when they log in, well, that's who we're going to share them with. If we don't share them with Zach, when Zach logs in, he's not going to see those financial statements. So you might have 40 reports in the organization, but depending on the user logging in, they might see a dozen of those or 2 dozen, or someone might see all of them. So there are controls around that. Now, on the user side, within Cosmos, you have 2 core user types, and I'm just going to mention these quickly because you're going to hear me use these terms as we go through the product. But you have what are called full users and light users. Simply put, your full users are going to be report authors, designers, as well as folks that would refresh and run reports and dashboards, things like that. So these people can build things and run them. These people can just run and look at dashboards that have been shared with them and reports. So kind of like authors versus pure consumers. That's the big difference. Down here at the bottom is this what we call a service user. That's for us and Turnkey. That way, if you need help, support, training, things like that, we have a secure way to authenticate. Obviously, there's no charge for service users. It's just more of a nicety for you. So all this is really easy to manage. It's tied into your Entra ID from Microsoft. So it's very easy to find your new hire and create a user and give them the roles or permissions that he or she needs to do their job. But that's kind of how you can administer all this yourself. So getting into the meat of this, we're going to focus on reporting, obviously. So you can see that I have lots of different reports I use when I'm doing my demos here. And the nice thing about this is everything I'm showing you today is real. It's up and running in 25 minutes, and that includes these reports. So here within my report gallery, when you go live on Cosmos, you're going to have access to dozens of ready-to-use reports to pull in your Business Central data. So there's reports around AP, AR, sales, finance, inventory, purchasing, lots of different reports. You can use those as is. They'll all work out of the box. Otherwise, you can modify them. So you might look at this pre-built AR detail here, and you might think, hey, that's 90% of what I want, but I also want to, customize it a bit. Maybe I want to drop in a column with the phone number for the account or something like that. Well, you could check this report out for editing, make your changes and publish in your own version and just update the version accordingly. So I'm going to pick on one of these. Let's run like an income statement by dimension or something. I can click this run button. Over here on the right is where we're going to set our filters. So in this case, I just have filters for dates. But when I build a report, I'll show you how you can add as many as you want. You could have dates, departments, companies, locations, salespeople, items, whatever you want to filter on. And you can have as many combinations as you'd like. So I'm going to run this report, but one thing I want to mention, this is cloud. So if you're using other tools, I used to work at a company called Jet, and everything was on-prem. When you ran a report, it would tie up your Excel instance, lock you out of there for a while, and it ran into performance constraints in Excel. This is all being ran in the cloud. It's never going to lock you out of Excel. It's never going to tie up anything. It's not using your machine's resources. So I'm going to run this report. And basically, it'll just kind of spin everything up here. Again, running in our cloud-based engine, controlled and scaled around performance, optimized for BC. And you can see my report's already gone through a couple million GL transactions and finished up. And then I have a fork in the road. I can open this in Excel Online or Excel Desktop. I'm just going to pick Excel Online. So at this point, we have a nice clean report kind of laying out our financials. Obviously, it's demo data here, so there's some blanks and things. But you can see here we have our product groups, which is my dimension I'm pulling from here going across the top. We have a consolidation column, obviously our accounts and descriptions and things like that. And the nice thing is I'll show you how to build stuff like this in a second, but you'll see that, I'm already able to sprinkle in all that Excel functionality into my report template. So we have sums going down here, subtotals, VLOOKUPs, conditional formatting, whatever you want. It is truly Excel. So one of the nice things people like is just the visibility you have at your fingertips, and you can control who has access to this. But sometimes in real life, you're going to run a report and you might be analyzing the data and you might look at it and think, man, 370,000 for foreign sales and TVs and parts, that seems high. Something seems off. Well, the first thing you might want to do is just check the plumbing of the report. What's it doing? And you can see here that we told it to sum up the amounts from our GL transactions table, to reverse the sign to show positive values. And we can see that we're filtered on account 44200 for our TV's dimension value for the month of June. So you can kind of check what it's actually doing to pull that number. And if all that checks out and it still doesn't pass the eye test, then there's probably something going on with the BC data. And what we'd want to do is drill into that value. We want to see the transaction level details so we can analyze that. So maybe we come in here and we notice some amount got double posted, or maybe there's something with a sixth digit and we're like, wow, someone must have, accidentally typed an extra zero or whatever it is. But this way you have all the actual BC data that's making up that number. You can filter, you can sort, you can pivot the data if you want to do some quick drag and drop analysis. But that way you don't just have that high level report view, you also have the ability to really get into the detail if you need it. So we call that drill down. But that's a good example of just like coming in, running reports, drill down, that type of stuff. So what I want to talk about next, just a couple bells and whistles. So we talked about security, but one that's really important and used a ton is scheduling. Last month we had, I think, over 50,000 scheduled reports go out. So this is a great way to automate the running and distribution of reports. Maybe there's reports you want to distribute on certain days of the week, days of the month. Maybe you want a preliminary copy of your financials on the first of every month so you can start the closing process. This is an easy way to automate all of that. And one of the nice things is you don't need to buy licensing for users to receive scheduled reports. So you don't need to get them a license if you're just going to, deliver them reports on a regular basis. And you can also run reports and just, share a link or save the file and send it off. But this is a way to do it in an automated fashion. There's a lot of flavors of scheduling. Your standard, run a report every Monday and send it to Luke. There's also what we call batch scheduling. So, we have customers where they have multiple companies and there's different managers for each company. So they want one schedule to run maybe a financial statement for company A and send to Luke, and then run it again for company B and send it to Anthony, and run it again for company C and send it to Lacey. So it's kind of like the ability to parse out the same report with different data or filters. That way you're ensuring the right people are only seeing the right data you want them to see. We also have the ability to do manual scheduled releases. So maybe at month end, there's a package of reports you want to go out. Well, you don't always know when that's going to be ready. So you can also set up the whole distribution method and the filters and all that. And then when you're ready, you can push a button to trigger this. Say, hey, send out all these reports. So that way it's always on your time and on demand. So lots of flexibility there for distribution of reports, I should say. So what I want to do next, I want to create a quick report just to kind of give you a look and feel. So obviously on a webinar like this with a short time frame, don't look at this as a training. This is just meant to show you, kind of the look and feel for creating reports. But I'm just going to build like maybe I'll do like a monthly income statement by company or something like that. I'm just using a financial example. It could be any data you want to report on. You can see there's sales and inventory and all that stuff. If you want to author an Excel desktop, check the box. Otherwise, it will default to Excel Online. I'm just going to use Excel Online by preference, but you can use any flavor of Excel. This does work fully in Excel for Windows, Excel for Mac, smartphones, tablets, any flavor of Excel. So what that's done is it's opened up a new report template or a new Excel file, and it's dropped that into my workspace. So you can think of this like work in progress. If you're in the middle of a report, you can close out of Cosmos because you got called into a meeting, open it up later, and you'll see this tile ready to pick up where you left off. You can just click the edit button. But I'm going to come through here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on formatting, just obviously for time's sake, but just to clean it up a little bit. I like to kind of lay out my steps or what I'm going to try to pull into the report. So I'll kind of put my headers here. And then again, you can spend as much time as you want on this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you can format till your heart's content. So we'll just kind of clean this up for today's sake. I'll just make it look decent. Maybe you drop in your company logo, add some references to your filters so you can see like the dates you ran it for, things like that. But for my example, I'm just going to start here. So aside from sprinkling in bits of Excel, I'm going to drive everything through the Cosmos Excel add-in here. Now, we do have all of our training on our website. You can self-serve, dig in at any time. It's right at the top. We also have our knowledge base, and we have a nice package that will typically have customers add to like build some reports with you, do some live training, work together to create reports. And then again, our knowledge base here is very comprehensive. Every article you might want to search for, look up, has a video walkthrough, step-by-step walkthrough. So we really focus on your ability to use the product and realize the value it provides. But the training covers all these steps in detail. And for some reports, you'll use all of them. For others, you might only use a couple. But one we're going to pretty much always use is adding filters or report options. So when we run the report, what can we toggle? And you'll see here with Cosmos, we take the Business Central data and we put it into more of a modern data warehouse structure. We have an out-of-the-box data warehouse for Business Central. Everything's very clean and nice and organized. You're not sifting through 1,700 tables and 53,000 fields. You see a very nice, clean reporting data set. The power here is that, like, for example, I have a table called sales transactions. Well, this one table is extremely comprehensive, but that's because it's made up of 8 different Business Central tables, all in one. So as a user, I don't have to be a database expert to write links and joins and things like that. But what I want to do, I'm going to add a filter for year. I can safely assume that's in my date table, but I'm just going to find as I type. I'm going to grab year, and I'm going to throw in a default value. We'll be able to toggle this later, and that's it. If you want more filters, rinse and repeat. You want one for company, great, add one for company, right? So you can add as many filters as you want. I'm just going to do one. Next, this is optional, but it's used a lot, so I like to show it, is the ability to break out reports across sheets. So again, maybe I do have multiple companies, and maybe I'd like those on a separate sheet with their own data. Well, I can just say split out my companies across sheets. Now, one of the cool things with Cosmos is we can take that a lot further too. We can do what are called child sheets. So maybe I have 3 companies, and on the first sheet, first financial statement, I want all companies consolidated. Then I want Cosmos to create a child sheet for each company. And below each company sheet, I want Cosmos to break it out by department. So you can have like nesting or hierarchies. I'm just going to do one level, but I wanted to show you that's available. Now we want to list out this data. So I'm going to grab below those headers. I'm going to go to my GL transactions, and I'm going to tell Cosmos to start by listing out my GL account numbers. Now I could click save, but that's going to give me all of my GL account numbers. So what I realistically want to do is filter this down a bit. So maybe I say, well, yes, I want you to list out the GL account numbers that are in my 40,000s, for example, because maybe those are my revenue or my income accounts. You can use ranges, categories, subcategories, individual accounts, combinations thereof. Using a range, category, or subcategory is a best practice because it will future-proof the report. If you go add 5 more accounts into BC 6 months after you built this report, they'll just show up in here the next time you run it because they're going to fall in that range or category or subcategory. So that's kind of best practice. So all that's going to do is list out my 40,000s and drag this block down. Now we also want this monthly. So I'm going to grab the shape of a column and I'm going to tell Cosmos to list out the months in the year. I'll take off sorting, which we enable by default because 95% of the time people want things sorted. If you don't want it sorted, just take it off. So we don't want our months alphabetical, and we'll click save. And what that's going to do is drag out my months across the columns. So we're going to come in here and add our fields. A relational database like a data warehouse will help guide you. It's not going to show you inventory tables, for example, because those aren't relevant to financials. But we want to get the name of our GL account number. So we'll go to GL account and we'll say we want the GL account name and the category and the subcategory. Finally, we want to aggregate or sum up our amounts by month. So I'll go to GL transactions and I'll tell Cosmos sum up those amounts. I can reverse the sign to show positive values on my revenue accounts. And I can also, like if I want to be prim and proper, I can add a filter to say, hey, make sure you exclude my closing entries. I don't want those to sneak into my report. But you'll see here, the amount's going to be for the company on this sheet, the GL account to the left, the month in each column it creates, and it's going to be based on the year we enter for that report option. And we'll click save. So believe it or not, we're basically done with our income statement example here. So I can use Excel to just sum this up. I can format a little bit further. And I'll buzz through this last part, but obviously we only have our revenue section. So I need to get my COGS and my expenses, my net income. I could rebuild those steps, but there's no point. I'm just going to paste this down a couple times. It'd just be a waste of time otherwise. So we'll come in here, we'll put our net income at the bottom. We'll use Excel to sum all this up. We'll put our, formatting and our almighty top and double bottom border here. We'll change our label to COGS. We'll change our label to expenses. And at this point, we're basically done. I'm just going to align these on the left. And then all I would want to do, we had our original list for our 40,000s. We had our month going across columns, and we copied that 40,000 section 2 more times. So you can probably guess where I'm going here, but I'm just going to change the accounts I'm pulling in. I want my 50,000s for my COGS accounts. And same thing here at the bottom, we'll select this one and we'll change the accounts we're pulling in. So we don't want our 40,000s again. This time, maybe we want our 60,000s, and I'll just take it out through the end of my account string, and we'll click save. In a real life example, I'd probably preview it just to see what the output looks like, make any last minute tweaks or edits. It'll open it in a new tab, so you can drag it to your other monitor and look at the template and the finished product and make your changes. But for example's sake, we'll just close out. Drop an image, screenshot, company logo, leave it blank, whatever you want to do. I'm going to check it in blank. Security is very important. So as you can see, I'm the only person that has access to it until I share it out with anyone else. But I'm going to run my report. There's that year filter we had added when we built the report. So I can toggle it, run it for multiple years, whatever I want to do. And I'll kick that off, and it's going to behave a bit differently than this report. This was just a single, sheet within a report. In this example, it's going to build out an income statement for my Canada company, my USA company, right, and split those out automatically. So now I can come in here and open this up once it finalizes, and we'll see we have a nice clean income statement by month. We have our months going across, accounts, we have net income at the bottom, and we have a sheet for each of our companies with their respective data. This is just one flavor of a million different report formats for your financials, obviously. Could be any other type of data set. You could have actuals, budget, variance percent for Jan, and then you could do Feb and March. You could have it roll up, expand, collapse, whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to give you a quick example of kind of the look and feel of how you build these things. So I want to pivot a little bit. I want to talk to you a little bit about where Power BI fits into this. So we've kind of talked about the Excel side of reporting. Power BI, if you're not familiar, it's a data visualization tool from Microsoft. You can see that right here. It's not a competitor to Excel. They're two different front ends that do different things well. Whereas Excel is great at rows and columns, quick calculations, financial statements. Power BI is kind of weak in that regard. On the other hand, Power BI is very strong at visualization, whereas Excel is kind of weak at that regard. So it really, using both gives you a really powerful, comprehensive solution where you can have Excel-based reports, row and column oriented, as well as dashboards and analytics in Power BI. If you haven't worked with Power BI, it's what we call a BYOD analytics tool, which means bring your own data. That's just the start of it. If you connect this to Business Central, you have to write SQL code, DAX code, Power Query. You have to expose tables and fields through API modification. It's a bear to work with. Or you can point this to Cosmos. Cosmos has a data warehouse. All those relationships and denormalization of the database is already done. So you can literally hook this up, which is what I did, through our API directly to Cosmos. And immediately I have a model and data set that is usable. So I can come in here and I've just loaded in some sales data, but I can easily just drag and drop the stuff I want to see on the canvas. So I want to see sales by salesperson, and I want to see sales by item category, and I want to move that over a bit. And I also want to see, where we're selling the most product. So maybe I look at customer location and sales or whatever it is. But in a few clicks, without any coding, I can have Power BI be real. I can use it within the business as a business user. When you're done, you can format a bit further, put your slicers, all that good stuff, publish it up to powerbi.com. And what's really cool and further emphasizes the integration between Cosmos and Power BI, we've provided that data, But now, since I'm logged in with my Microsoft credentials, I can actually click on this Power BI section and it will pull in all the Power BI reports and dashboards I should have access to. I can launch those directly inside of Cosmos. I don't have to go sign in to powerbi.com now and access different reports over there. From a user standpoint, anything I need has been shared with me inside of Cosmos. So yeah, we already saw the Excel front end. We see that Power BI's front end is in here as well. And you can just decide how you want to surface that data. So that's the idea there. The last piece of this is just really around the data warehouse itself. So this is an area you can control who has access to, but there's no coding required for any of this. Sorry, I had this open earlier. But as part of our 25-minute onboarding, we go in, we install our extension into BC. It's published and validated by Microsoft up on AppSource. Allows you to set up the connection and then pick any companies you want to report out of. So if you've just got one, great. If you have some test companies from Go Live, leave those behind. You can sync up at any time. And then down here at the bottom, similar to how we have pre-built reports, we have pre-built data models within our data warehouse. So these are broken out by subject matter. So if all of these are important to you for reporting, click down the list. If there's certain ones you care about, maybe you don't have inventory, skip that one. That's going to snap together and form this comprehensive data warehouse out of the box with your Business Central data. And earlier I mentioned this sales transactions table and how everything I needed was in there, but that's because it's made up of the value entry table, the return receipt line, the sales credit memo line, sales invoice line. So we've brought all these 8 tables together to form this single reporting table. And that's why it's so easy to use to create reports and why it works so well with Power BI as well, because that's the stuff you would have to set up manually in Power BI. Same thing with purchase transactions, right? Value entry table, purchase credit memo line, purchase invoice line. All of this is customizable and extendable via point click. So you can see here, these are all the tables in Business Central, and this will read in anything, custom tables and fields, per tenant extensions, absolutely everything. Very easy to select additional tables we'd like to report on and, pick the fields and come in and drop it in our data warehouse. We also have a really easy example here of just like adding a field. Maybe you have a custom field on your customer card. Well, check the box, come into your data model, go to your customer area, create a new field, call it whatever you want. We enable captioning. So if you have business terminology you use that's not native to BC, you can still bring it in the way you want to see it. We see we have a customer address field created, and we can just map in address. When we're done, we'll publish out our changes. And now that data point is available when I build my Excel reports as well as inside Power BI. So I didn't want to spend a whole lot in the back end here because it's not something the business users are typically going to touch anyways. But it is nice to know that you really have full control without any coding to come in and extend this, modify it. We have the ability to pull in data from other areas. But that's really what I wanted to cover today. We talked about the Excel reporting side. We talked about user admin and roles. We talked about Power BI for dashboards and analytics. We talked about the data management side a bit. Were there any questions that folks wanted to type into the Q&A real quick? And Luke, I'm not seeing anything come in. I'll keep an eye on it. But did you want to kind of wrap things up here?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Anthony. That was a great demo. I appreciate that. And yeah, if you guys do have any questions and if you think of anything else, feel free to reach out to us. That's our contact link there on our website. So feel free to do that. But yeah, if nothing comes up, we will also be posting this recording on our website for your reference. And yeah, we appreciate your time and have a great rest of your day. And thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And thanks again, Luke, for coordinating. Everyone have a good rest of your day and we appreciate it. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.